Former Baylor receiver and sideline analyst Ricky Thompson joins us. Craig Smoke, David Smoke on the eve of Thanksgiving here on 365 Sports. Ricky, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. Can you see them pulling anything like all of a sudden Baylor changes the last game after what we've seen all year?
Smokey, it would be somewhat surprising. I think it's just a difficult point in the season for these guys, particularly when they know it's last game. And it's just a mixture of a lot of things. You got the holiday period. I think the attendance is not going to be very good.
Yeah.
Students are gone, probably won't come back. And I will say, historically, the Baylor students have been great about coming back to ball games over Thanksgiving weekend. Most occasions, those late games have meant something, and this one doesn't have a lot of meaning other than you've got a group of seniors that are going to play their last game for Baylor, and they were part of the Big 12 championship 2 years ago. So for those guys, I hate the way this is going down toward the end. But this is going to be a tough game that points to playing without your quarterback as well. So I think they'll play hard. I just think it's an uphill battle at this point.
Ricky, what was that like when Blake Shapen was hurt last week, and just kind of what did you sense from the sidelines? And I guess just what are your thoughts on Sawyer Robertson having not played after getting that little dabble of experience earlier on in the year? What can you really reasonably expect with him, and what do you expect on Saturday?
Yeah, going back to Blake, Craig, to your point, I think everybody was really disappointed in that, and to the effect of course, at that point in the game, it was done. But if that happens earlier in the game, I think it's really a huge disappointment because Blake has played so well under what I think haven't been very good circumstances with his protection and the shots he takes and the sacks. And I really thought while that play was legal, that was really an unnecessary hit by the TCU guy. Walk on, took his shot. Wasn't a penalty, but that's probably one you can pass on. The other side of it is maybe Blake's not in the game with a minute to go in the game over. Put Sawyer in there and see what happens. Going to Sawyer, I think this might be a little different for him in that when he stepped in last time, remember, guys, he got hurt pretty early too. And I think that ankle was a lot worse than we really thought. He made a couple of really good runs early, and then we kept wondering, why won't he take off with the ball? Why won't he go? Why is he not stepping into his throws? And as it all comes back, the kid was hurt and was playing hurt. And I think that was really not a fair assessment of him when he couldn't step with true form to deliver the football. Plus, he couldn't take off and run. And you just watching how he hobbles. So hopefully you see a healthy Sawyer Robertson. I think it's good that he gets to play. I mean, we're not playing for a bowl game, and I think that's fine. Rest Blake, let him get well, and see what Sawyer can do. As far as that goes, I think the timing's just fine. Let him play.
Ricky, we know, all of us know that there is discussion about what happens after the game Saturday night. Dave Aranda, first year 2-7, then, of course, the best year in Baylor football history. And you as a former player can appreciate what was done. And then, of course, last year, the way that thing ended, and this year it never started, really, other than the nice comeback against UCF. What are your thoughts about if you stay the course, NIL is changing, young players, and then the opposite is if you stay the course and nothing changes, you really almost lose another year, 2 or 3?
That's a possibility, and that's a decision that has to be made. That one will go to Mack Rhodes, and just have trust that he'll do what's right long-term for Baylor. I don't know exactly what that is. I do know that there have been adjustments made in the NIL, which had to happen. Mm-hmm. We're suddenly competitive in that regard, and I think if you compare it to the remaining Big 12 schools, throw out A&M and Texas, because I think they're anomalies, a little bit like Ohio State, some of the other schools, Georgia, where you have unlimited alumni resources to do whatever you want to do. But back that off, I think we put our NIL in a position now where we can compete with any of these Big 12 schools. So that part's done. Coaching decisions, those are some that are going to have to be made. I don't know what they'll be. I think you'll see some changes. I don't know how dramatic that'll be, but I think for a lot of reasons, just going into next year, that this off season, and I think, Smokey, I think it's got to be pretty quickly if there's going to be changes, whether it's coordinators or the top spot. You got to do it very quickly, because the first thing you have to do is recruit your own players and keep those guys and make sure they're not going anywhere. Then you've got to keep the class that you had, and then you've got to start working on new kids. So there's not a lot of time remaining. A lot of teams have already pulled the trigger. So we'll see where that goes. But I think those decisions will be made quickly, and then we'll go forward, whether it's with Dave or new coordinator or
all of the above.
Whole bunch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
Ricky, on a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever, you get the gist. How disappointed? I know there's a lot of focus on the offense, but how disappointed have you been in the defense and just their performance overall this season?
Well, I think everybody is, and I mean, it's not a secret that they've not performed. And I thought Saturday was another case where we really were in a position to make some stops early and did. Remember, guys, they scored 42, but we stopped them twice inside the 10, once with a fumble and once with a fourth down hole. You kick those two on top of it, and it's really out of hand. Now, last score, we gave it to them. We go for a 4th and 4 on the 30-yard line. I mean, that's not a fair assessment of a defense. But I guess the part that would bother me more than if you've got a man-to-man coverage and the guy beats your man coverage, then you just get beat.
Yeah,
that's a one-on-one battle. The guy wins. But when you have a tight end go untouched 81 yards, that's not the same. And that's a mistake somewhere, either by a player or a call or a scheme. But then you get hit again on the same play for 3rd and 25, and you go for a 28-yard touchdown. Those are the ones that I think have to be fixed in some form or fashion, because, again, I can take somebody getting beat man-to-man, but just running wide open, uncovered, that shouldn't happen. And that's a match of either an offense knowing what we're going to do defensively or somebody blowing a coverage, or a combination of both.
Ricky, you're a former player, a letterman, and then also JJ joins us almost on all Mondays. And both of you guys have been incredibly transparent in how you feel. You're a part of the radio broadcast. How much has this year as a former player hurt you in a way? It doesn't keep you up at night. You have your own business, Alliance Bank, and all the things you do with your life. But how much has this season just like been a kick in the gut as a former player?
Well, I'm going to go back on you one time. It does keep me up at night.
Okay.
when I come in the evenings after a game, I mean, my poor wife, Carol, we got married 10 days before I started my NFL career, and she knew after which games that I'd talk and after which games I wouldn't. And she knew when we were going to dinner after game, and when just to tell our guests, just don't ask, because we're not going to dinner. I can tell you in advance. So it does keep me up. And I love Baylor. I love the school, and I love to be successful. And gosh, I hate to lose. I am a poor loser at whatever it may be. I hate it. So it has kept me up, and I think it's disappointing in the fact that we had eight home games. We were kind of set in that regard, scheduling to our advantage, and frankly got a chance to go 1-7 at home, and at best 2-6. And I don't think that's what any of us expected. And the part that's really difficult when you love Baylor like I do, the excitement of 2 years ago, Smokey, was beyond anything you could really imagine. Just a little unexpected. I think we knew we were going to be pretty good. We had a lot of good guys out there. But then some of the wins that year where you make the plays we didn't make this year to win tight games, and then you win the championship game the way you won it, that's the ultimate high in football to me, a season like that, and then you get the Sugar Bowl. And I think the tough part is that you follow that with two really not very good years, which you think maybe you have the great year. Now let's build on it. And I think we've had a hard time doing that.
Ricky, as I think you mentioned the NFL a moment ago, and that reminded me. I wanted to ask you about Drake Dabney. He's a true senior, so in theory he could come back, but has set the new mark for single season yards by a tight end in program history last week, breaking Ken Hodges' record from back in 1964. He's got a bunch of touchdowns, which tight ends, hard to come by. Just what do you think of his prospects as a pro, and just where have you seen his game evolve? I know he touched on during his media session how he knows he's a threat in the passing game, but he's tried to develop as a blocker as well. Gave Grimes a lot of credit. Just what have you seen from him, and what do you think that could lead to as far as his prospects moving forward?
I think he's got a real shot at the NFL. I think that's the kind of guy that they look for. They may want to put some weight on him, get him a little bit heavier, but the guy runs so well for a big guy. And, he had a couple of games in there where I thought he dropped some balls that he didn't need to drop. One was on a first series against Iowa State, remember, that may have gone to the house and could have really changed that game on the very first series, and just absolutely dropped it. But then on the reverse, Saturday, the deep ball that he caught, I think not many people realize how tough of a catch that was. He went up with his hands running full speed and didn't break stride. How often do you see a guy on a deep ball just break stride, slow down because you can't judge the ball? He judged that thing perfectly. Had a guy in his face, hands up, not sure that he didn't have his hands on him. Not only does he make the catch, but he runs another, 25 yards after the catch? The main thing to me would have been just make sure you get the ball. But he not only got the ball, but had a great run. So that's what NFL guys look for. Man, I wish we had him back. But
yeah,
I'm guessing he'll be gone, and I think he'll be a draft pick. And I think the dude's really got a chance at a nice NFL career.
Ricky, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you Saturday. We appreciate your time as always.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Have a good one.
Ricky Thompson with us on Wednesdays.